Good evening, everyone. I am calling to order the regular open meeting of the New Westminster Board of Education for Tuesday, December 17th. The New Westminster School District recognizes and acknowledges the Kakite First Nation as well as all Coast Salish peoples on whose traditional and unceded territories we live, we learn, we play, and we do our work. Welcome to all of those who have joined us tonight for our last meeting of 2024. Our first piece of business is the adoption of the agenda. The recommendation is that the Board of Education of School District number 40 New Westminster adopt the agenda for the December 17th, 2024 regular school board meeting. Can I get a motion from trustees to move the agenda? Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any discussion or changes to the agenda?
I wanted to make an amendment, Chair Russell.
Great, go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking, could we move new business 9B to ahead of reports from senior management? I know that there are parents here that are here for their delegation and may not want to sit through the hour meeting in between.
So move 9 to follow 4A. Did I hear that right?
Pardon?
Sorry, can you just tell me again where you were suggesting we move 9B?
After 7A.
Okay. After the board committee reports. Got it. Okay. Any objection from staff? Okay, that has been moved. Can I get a seconder for the motion?
Seconded.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I will need to get my trustees to wave or say audibly. Thank you, just because I can't get you all on one screen. Thank you so much. Motion is carried. Okay, is there any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we're at presentations. So our last learning story of
I don't think we approved
Maya,
the minutes.
I don't think we approved the minutes.
Oh, you're right. We did not. Sorry, because I'm having a hard time reading my papers. We're on number 2, approval of the minutes. Thank you. And minutes of the November 26, 2024 open meeting. The recommendation is that the Board of Education of School District number 40 New Westminster approve the minutes as distributed for the November 26, 2024 regular school board meeting. I'll get a mover and a seconder, please. And then I believe we have some corrections to those.
Moved.
Thank you. Seconded. Okay. And I need amendments.
Yes, I'd like to make an amendment to sorry.
If you just want to call out the corrections.
The correction is Trustee Dollywall made the motion to nominate Cheryl Sluice as vice chair. So under elections D for vice chair. And under E, election of BCSTA, my name is Kathleen Carlson, not Kathleen Carlson Andres.
Great. Thank you so much. Those are important. I think we can just make those corrections then for the official final version of the minutes. There's no objections. Okay. Seeing none with that change, I'll ask you to vote on the minutes as amended or as corrected. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Thank you. Now we're at business arising from the minutes. Don't believe there was any to raise. Okay, so now we're at 3A and presentations, and our 4th learning story for this school year, focused on human and social development. And I'd like to welcome Melanie Smith. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just get a thumbs up that you can hear me okay? Great.
You're good.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to be working from slides on my own screen, so please do let me know if I get out of sync. Just sort of adjusting to the technology as well. So thank you so much for inviting me to share some of the work that we have been doing in the Safe and Caring Schools Department at the New Westminster School District. I'm Melanie Smith. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the District Administrator for Safe and Caring Schools in New West. And I have the pleasure of presenting to you this evening with regards to some of the data that we've collected regarding student safety and well-being in New Westminster Schools. Next slide, please. So we are going to be talking a lot of the data that you'll be seeing is coming from the Student Learning Survey, which is an extensive survey that looks at students' perceptions about the school environment and their learning and their access to that environment. And as we know, feeling safe, having a sense of belonging, feeling welcome, and knowing that there are adults who care about you are all really, really important factors in a student's ability to access learning. Next slide, please. So in the Student Learning Survey, some of the key questions that are asked, some of them as directly as this, and some of them, from multiple access points. So the questions are asked in a few different ways. But some of the key questions that the survey focuses on, for example, are: do you feel safe at school? Is school a place where you feel that you belong? Do you feel welcome at school? And how many adults, for example, teachers, counselors, support staff, do you feel care about you in your school? So the Student Learning Survey is conducted with grade 4, 7, 10, and 12 students. And our participation rates in the last cycle were similar for grade 4 and 7. We had about 89.4 for the grade 4s and 87.4 for the grade 7s. We had a significant increase in participation at the high school level, so 72%, that's an increase of 13% from the previous year. And 57% at the grade 12 level, and that's an increase of 11%. So really happy to see improvement in those numbers for the participation. Next slide, please. So we'll start by talking about students feeling welcome in our schools. And you can see in the charts on the left data representing the 2021-22 school year, and the data on the right representing the 22-23 school year. So the percentage of students in grade 4 feeling welcome is pretty much at par with the provincial average. The percentage has consistently been about in the mid-70s for the last couple of years. Grade 7, the percentage of students feeling welcome decreased by 13% from the school year to the following school year. And that is below the provincial average of about 70%. In grade 10, there was a 6% increase in students feeling welcome between the two school years represented, from 62 to 68%. And then in grade 12, despite a 5% increase in students feeling welcome, the number is still about 8% below the provincial average for students in the same category. The next slide, please. With regards to our Indigenous students, we have some positive scores in grade 10 and 12, but we do see a drop between the 2021-22 school year and last school year in grades 4 and 7. And that's an area that we'll definitely need to look at for improvement. Next slide, please. Students' sense of belonging. Whoops, sorry, I've just skipped ahead here. Students' sense of belonging. We've had a slight increase at the grade 4 level in students having a sense of belonging in the school, and this is slightly higher than the provincial average of 61%. And about 20% of students reported sort of neutral feelings about their sense of belonging in school at the grade 4 level. Grade 7, we had a 3% decrease between the two represented school years in students feeling a sense of belonging, and this is also below the provincial score. We had a 5% increase in negative responses from 2021 to the 2022 school year. In grade 10, the number of students feeling a sense of belonging is within the provincial average. No significant change for grade 10s over the past couple of years. And as I said, pretty much on par with the province. And then, pardon me, in grade 12, we've had a 4% decrease in students' sense of belonging from the 21-22 school year to the 22-23 school year. With an 8% increase in neutral responses. And this also continues to be below the provincial average for students in the same category. Next slide, please. Connectedness, with adults. We've seen some minor changes in all categories. For the grades 4 students, we saw a 3% increase in the 21-22, from the 21-22 to the 22-23. And this is on par with their peers in the province. Grade 7, we saw a 1% decrease, so a very small decrease from the 21-22 school year to last school year, and that was slightly below the provincial standard. In grade 10, we saw a 3% increase from 21-22 to 22-23, which is again within the provincial average for grade 10 students. And then grade 12, we saw a 1% decrease, another small decrease there from 21-22 to the 22-23. And this is, again, slightly below the provincial average, about 2% lower than the provincial average. Next slide, please. Students' sense of safety, another key factor in student success in their learning. And unfortunately, we are below the provincial average in all age groups. Grade 4 students, grade 7 students, both below the provincial average in responses, and at the high school level, students feeling safe in grade 10 and 12, also slightly below provincial averages. Next slide, please. In our MDI data, or the Middle Years Development Index, we have also seen this reflected in the data with our middle school students. There's been a notable decrease in a high sense of belonging through the middle years for both grade 5 and grade 8 students. So those grade 5 students sort of heading into middle school in that transitional year, and then the grade 8 students in their transitional year towards high school. Next slide, please. The MDI data has also shown notable decreases in connection to 2 or more adults through the middle years. And again, this is a marker that we use to determine how cared for students feel, or how seen students feel in their school, having that connection with 2 or more adults. And we can see decrease in that feeling of connection in our middle years, both grade 5 and grade 8. Next slide, please. So what does all of this mean? We have ongoing concerns about students' feeling of safety, belonging, and being cared for at school. That lower sense of safety, students consistently reporting feeling less safe, less welcome, and connected compared to their provincial counterparts, which is something that we definitely need to keep an eye on. Our subgroup trends hold true across multiple years, and for every subgroup, with the exception of children and youth in care, those numbers fluctuate quite a bit just because, being a very small school district, a very, very small changes in that very small population of students in our district creates quite significant fluctuations in the data. For Indigenous students, they are particularly less likely to report a sense of belonging or that adults care about them in our schools. Students with diverse abilities, the majority report not feeling welcome or feeling a sense of belonging. We are seeing gradual improvement in the percentage of students feeling safe at school, but we are still below provincial averages. So within our district, we're starting to see those numbers look slightly better, but we are still coming in lower than the provincial average. And so, of course, it's crucial to understand what makes students feel unsafe or unwelcome to address the issues effectively. And this data is definitely, a call to arms for us, a call to action. So I'll spend the next couple of slides just talking about some of the things that we have put in place and some of the things that we're looking to put in place as we move forward. Next slide, please. Excuse me. So over the last couple of years, particularly with the focus on the 21-22 and the 22-23 school years, some of the strategies that we have implemented to address some of the trends that we're seeing in the data is improved supervision. We've increased the number of lunchtime supervisors and child and youth care workers that we have, particularly at the high school. And we've increased the visibility of those supervisors so that students know where they can go to access support, and also so that there is that visual presence of caring adults in the building. We've also improved our training and onboarding processes for lunchtime supervisors, child and youth care workers, and educational assistants to engage with students in caring in meaningful ways. We have done some learning in our school communities. We've had some school-wide initiatives intended to teach students what safe and caring schools look like, what they sound like, and what they feel like. This helps our students understand the expectations around behavior and how that impacts other people's sense of safety and belonging in the community. As always, we work very closely with Safer Schools Together, and there has been a campaign both last year and this year to promote the ERASE tool. This is the Expect, Respect, and a Safe Education Report It tool that is provided with by collaboration between Safer Schools Together and the ministry. We have improved the visibility of the links on district websites and in all school websites, and additional ERASE training for school counselors as well. And also putting up some additional posters, QR codes, those kinds of things where students can access those things in high traffic areas of the school if they do need to report safety concerns that they may have. We have also worked on creating a transition guide to support elementary to middle and middle to secondary transitions for all students, and then improvements to our articulation process for those transition years as well, where the individual transition planning for students with complex needs requiring an additional year or transitioning support, either to school or to community, making sure that those things are in place for those students. And finally, a celebration of diversity. I've been working closely with Ken Headley, our district administrator for diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racism. And we've been doing a lot of work around recognition of cultural celebrations and building our staff capacity around culturally responsive pedagogy. Next slide, please. So our ongoing strategic engagement, some of the things that we're working on quite actively right now includes sexual health education, a sexual health education working group. This is engagement with students through the SEAS group. Some of you may be familiar. SEAS stands for Safety, Education, Advocacy, and Support. This is a student-led collaborative advocacy group of students who aims to uplift the voices of New Westminster students, particularly at the high school, to create a safe school environment. We're continuing with the Student Symposium, which is held in the early spring. That's organized for middle and high school students, held annually at the Shadbolt Center, and is an amazing opportunity to really engage with students and hear what they have to say about their concerns in their school communities. We have ongoing consultation with Fraser Health, community sexual health educators. We engage actively with the Lower Mainland Child Abuse Prevention Educators Group and the Burnaby New West Exploitation Prevention Task Force. So sorry, those are both a mouthful. And this includes educators, city councilors, police, child and youth mental health, the MCFD, and other community partners who have an interest in ensuring the safety of our students and preventing exploitation. We have ongoing consultation and advocacy has resulted, in the permanent assignment of 0.5 half-time district sexual health educator who is also doing a lot of work. We've been keeping her very busy this year with sexual health education, but also working a lot on consent and healthy relationships and focusing on how to build empathy with our students. And she will be continuing that work on an ongoing basis. We are also engaging regularly with the New Westminster Situation Table. This is a group that was put together by the City of New Westminster, funded by a federal grant for building safer communities. And this is a group that focuses on supporting vulnerable youth, particularly those who are at acutely elevated risk. So students who are having, quite difficult circumstances or whose families are in difficult circumstances. This table meets once a week, and the attendees include human service organizations in New West, including the school district, child and youth mental health, ministry, transit, Indigenous services, BC Housing, New Westminster Police Department attends, Fraser Health, Income Assistance, and a variety of other community partners. And this is an opportunity to provide rapid response supports to families who are in crisis. And then finally, we have our anti-racism and SOGI committees and our Wellness Center Advisory Group. And both of these groups are, again, consultation groups that consist of PAC members, community members, students, district staff, and they provide us with consultation and ongoing engagement in initiatives that might include parent education evenings, presentations or workshops for students, professional learning opportunities for our staff, and the like. Next slide, please. Some of the next steps that we're looking forward to taking or that we're working on as we sort of start to build some new systems with our new senior leadership team. We are looking at a social emotional learning leaders group. And this is, again, district staff, including counselors, teachers, youth workers, anybody who has a vested interest in social emotional learning. And the participants collectively examine evidence-based research, including the data that I've presented to you today. We discuss and share instructional strategies within the network, and ideally plan to bring some of those supports back into the school communities, so that we have similar conversations happening at the district level that are then being transmitted out into the school communities. With regards to inclusive education supports, we have ongoing training and support for IEPs for the counselors, for example. Focus on equity and inclusion. As I mentioned, Ken Headley and I are working very closely together. We have a project that we're working on in collaboration with Safer Schools Together on a climate and culture scan. The idea of this is that it's targeted for middle school staff, students, and families to determine if they feel safe in their community and what is needed for improvement. And that's a project, as I said, that we're working on with Safer Schools Together. And we're going to continue working with administrators to build capacity around responses to incidences of discrimination in our school communities. Focus on belonging in middle schools. As the data shows, we're really have students in our middle years that are really toiling with a sense of belonging and connectedness. So we do really want to focus some of our energies there. This includes student forums. This is a collaboration with UBC to support and implement social emotional learning initiatives and to track their success. And then we are also planning in the spring to hold a mental health summit at the middle schools. There will be one summit held at each middle school. And this will be a full day summit that focuses on mental health and well-being. We'll have speakers, workshops, and things for students to participate in. And then finally, we have some planned updates to some of our existing administrative procedures and a new administrative procedure supporting responding effectively to incidences of discrimination, harassment, and sexual misconduct. And these focus areas are based on feedback that we've had both in the data that I presented today, but also in some of the anecdotal data that we've had in conversations with some of the collaboration groups that I mentioned earlier. So that is what we are working on in Safe and Caring Schools. Thank you so much for including me this evening. And that's me for this evening.
Thank you so much, Melanie. It's some really tough results there, and really appreciate your care and hard work on this file. But clearly, it needs all of us, and there's lots to do. I see a couple of questions from trustees. I did want to give Superintendent Davidson an opportunity to just speak to those results, because I feel that these are not slides to just sort of table and move on. I think, yeah, they require our attention.
I appreciate that. I was looking for what to push to raise my hand and I couldn't find it. So I'm glad you just called on me. The data that we see there, while there is some positive in it, there are some trends in the right direction. They're an indication of the fact that there is a lot that we need to wrap our arms around. And I think a good job is done in the presentation and the slides here to talk about the broad areas that we need to address. I want to focus specifically on two things. Now, one of them is another item on the agenda here today, and that is admin time. One of the things that I heard from partner groups and from administrators and teachers when I first came here in May, before I was even superintendent, was that there was a real challenge around having administrators available to work with teachers to address student need and student conduct. And in conversations with administrators, they felt as though they would go home daily, not just thinking there were things that they would like to do, but things that they really felt they needed to do, but they just couldn't get there. And one of the things that comes up the most is working with teachers, with families, and with students around behavior support plans and around accountability for conduct. And accountability does not mean consequences alone. Well, consequences are part of it. It means having learning conversations that accompany potential consequences with young people about what it is they've done to harm the learning environment and the working environment of the people who make up the school learning community. So we're going down the road of having conversations about the levers available to us in policy and in legislation, and also professional learning around how to support students to change behavior while holding them accountable for the things they do that damage the learning environment and the work environment for others. That sounds like a simple thing, but administrators having the time and knowing that they're supported by the superintendent and engaging in that work, and by the board, quite frankly, is going to be a critical piece of shifting this data. I'll also say that supporting schools in terms of having the right human resources in the right place allows them to respond to the needs of children. What we know is that students who are working hard and are well supported and having their needs met are less likely to misbehave because they're focused and engaged. We have a lot of amazing staff who are working hard to do those things, but we need to work with them to discover what different supports they require in order to better meet the needs of kids. The policies that were alluded to here today, I think are clear statements of the board's commitment and administration's shared commitment to upholding a standard of conduct in our schools, being really clear about it, proclaiming that, and then working with administrators to ensure that they follow through on those things and use the accountability and learning tools to hold people accountable and then support them in their learning if their conduct falls short of expectations. We also need to make sure that we support teachers and all other staff in having the time and space and give them permission to build relationship with young people through engagement in their learning and having some fun. And we are shifting the way we think and we talk from language of crisis in terms of the exponential growth in our population toward thinking about the tremendous opportunities we have to build relationships with a diverse group of learners. And I think all of those things together will move our data. I'm already heartened by some of the shifts that I've heard just in conversation with staff in a number of our schools as administrators have become more engaged in using policy and legislation to issue consequences and offer support to students to improve behavior.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I'm going to go to questions from trustees. Go ahead, Trustee Connolly.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Superintendent Davidson and Melanie for your presentation. I guess what I wasn't getting at, excuse me, was the why. And I guess that's a bit of a deeper dive into some of the whys these are happening, and whether we're seeing any kind of move at all with regards to some of the strategies that are being implemented. And also, I guess I'm wondering if there's been any kind of coordination with other districts in terms of what they're doing differently, perhaps, and especially if our numbers are looking less than provincial averages. And then I guess the one other piece you've talked about, the middle school sense of belonging. I do know that I quite often hear at the at PAC meetings and having been there myself many years ago, it seems the middle school transition seems to be one that still to this day gets talked about. And I just wonder if there's a way to even communicate out. I know that there's work that's done. And when I was speaking at an elementary school, there was parents that were nervous about the transitions, so parental anxiety could be being passed on to child anxiety as well. I don't know if there's something we could do on our website even to direct people to, like, here are some of the initiatives that are done to ease that transition, to support kids as they're making their journey from one school to another. Because I know, again, having experienced it myself and still to this day, it seems to be something that causes a lot of anxiety in households. And so I wonder if there's something that could be done around that as well. So.
Wondering if we should gather, if we'll go through, we have a few questions maybe, and then we'll get responses if that's okay. Trustee Andres.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I am concerned that in our time as a board, we have seen this decrease in belonging and safety, and especially at the high school level. So I think I have a similar question to Trustee Connolly, like the why of it. I'm really happy that the superintendent is addressing, is requesting these budget resources in order to address this. I think that is, I think that is a proactive, sounds like a proactive move. So I'm feeling optimistic about that. I'm going back to, it's something I mentioned last board meeting, the why maybe coming from that street data conversations with students. I just wonder if, we've been able to talk to students like one-on-one and just say, what's one thing that would make you feel safer at school? So I know we're doing, I'm just looking at this huge list of 20 items that is being worked at, and it's really impressive. But I'm hopeful that we can also just have direction as a board. If we know that why, and there's something specifically that the board is recommended to do, I would feel in a good position to be able to support that beyond the resource request. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Trustee Slin.
Thanks. I won't take up too much time, but I guess my question is in a similar vein as the other trustees that went before me, of just that what's the why behind the reason these kids are not feeling safe or have a sense of belonging at school. And I appreciate also seeing the increase in the response rate from the high school students in terms of like being able to participate in the surveys. And I appreciate your work, Melanie. Like, none of my questions or comments are any sort of critique, but I wanted to loop back on something that I did mention a couple board meetings ago, just around working with city partners in terms of the youth workers that are there. Like, I know that in middle schools, there's after school programs, but maybe an exploration of lunch programs that the city and youth workers can do to connect with those kids. So there is that sense of feeling of, connecting with adults that and building that sort of relationship. But yeah, I would love to know the why, or if there's a way to get more of that information, as Trustee Andre says, that street data. So that's it for me.
Trustee Sluse.
Thank you. Couple questions embedded in what I'm going to say. I won't comment on the results, except to ask about whether the MDI data is also shared at a school level, because we have a very interesting case study in our district with grade 5s at QMS, and also at elementary schools across the mainland. And so I would be curious if there's any difference in the results based on those grade 5 data sets. And then sort of in a different vein, I guess I just want to acknowledge or state that I like a lot of what was on the list of what we're doing. Inclusive curriculum, addressing bullying and discrimination, creating clear expectations for behavior and respect, supporting mental health and well-being. I think those are really important. I also think, focusing on middle schools is definitely, we're on the right track with that. We know that when students feel their input is valued, they're more likely to feel a sense of ownership. And Melanie, you shared a few examples of student voice involving students in decision making and leadership opportunities, the C's students and the Student Voice Symposium. I think this kind of work is so important, and it kind of speaks to Trustee Andres's point about street data as well. I would love to see even more examples, particularly engaging with groups that include marginalized students. And I guess I wonder about the role of engaging clubs in this work. So for example, I just heard about an amazing club called Roots that brings together Black students and to celebrate Black excellence. And there's some really awesome people involved in that club that I know personally. And I hear about the discussions, and I'm just blown away. I'm so impressed. So I guess the second question is there a role in the Safe and Caring Schools portfolio to work with clubs to spread a sense of safety or belonging, or even use it as, an opportunity to gather that street data? Thanks.
Trustee Carlson.
Thank you. And thank you, Melanie, for doing all this work. I find it very difficult to hear that so many people, so many students don't feel safe. It breaks my heart. I appreciate the accountability and learning conversations discussion that I heard, and really happy to hear about the professional learning and help and support for the administrators. I think that's really important. I wonder if there is a survey going out to the same students that took that test, or to give us those results, asking them what they feel they need to feel safe, so that the data we're using is actually data from our own students, right? Because every district is different. So I wonder if we could do a survey for our own students and use the information that the students in New West give us. But I actually wrote down the situation table. I think it's fantastic. I'm not sure whether the federal grant continues yearly or how long it is. I'd be interested to know that, and hope that it will continue, but that really intrigued me. And I was also heartened to hear about the climate and culture scan for the middle school students. I'd be interested to hear about the results of that and how that goes. And I will echo the concerns that many of the trustees have already spoken about the transition years. I think many of us have lived through them. And I do believe one of the trustees mentioned it and talked about it. I think a lot of the education during these transition years is not just through the students, it's through the families. Yeah, I talked to a lot of families, and I think the education would help all families. And lastly, I'll keep going back to the issues of the students at NWSS. And again, going back to, we need to talk to the students that are in the school now. And I wonder if there's a number of students who may not feel comfortable doing surveys, or sharing the information of why they don't feel safe. How we can get those kids taking surveys, whether it's in a classroom, whether they can be told 100% it's anonymous. I'd like to see a wide range of students in the high school giving us the answers to what they need to feel safe. Thank you.
Some great questions there. Superintendent Davidson.
If I may, Chair, if I could invite Melanie to speak to any of those things, and then I'd like to follow up. If there's anything you'd like to say based on the queries or statements of trustees, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I can respond to a few of those things. Thank you for your thoughtful questions. The why is a big question that we all have. This is the challenging thing with these kinds of surveys, is they give us finite information, and surveying students about the why can be very, very challenging, and collating that data can be very challenging. So from our perspective, I think that some of the ways that we're trying to engage with that why is, for example, through student symposium, where we have students coming together, talking with each other at the peer level, facilitated by older peers, having conversations about things that are really meaningful to them. And some of those whys come out in those conversations. One-on-one conversations, you know, for in a high school of 2,400 kids, that's prohibitive. We don't have, even within, you know, cohorts of students, it would be very difficult to find students who represent the voices of a lot of students. So we can understand absolutely at an intimate level why for one student the school might not feel safe if we have that one-to-one conversation, or we can have a conversation with a group of students, a smaller group, and get a sense from them. But, you know, as has been brought up, some students may not speak up in those group contexts. So it's really difficult to get a really clear sense of why, because I think there are a variety of different reasons why different students might feel unsafe, for example, or might not feel that they belong, for example. So I agree. I would love to send more surveys out to the students. They would not love it. That there is a certain saturation that the students experience through the situation table, and as part of that Building Safer Communities grant, the city did an extensive research project with youth in New Westminster, and they went everywhere. They went to SkyTrain stations, youth centers, they went to the schools, they were all over. And they did a lot of research and got a lot of really interesting information. And when I have that information, I absolutely will share that with you. The follow-up to that was a validation survey where we attempted to get more information from students, just to sort of say, these are the patterns that we're seeing, these are the concerns that we're hearing from youth in the community. We'd like to validate that what we're hearing is accurate and true. And we had a really difficult time getting youth to engage with that follow-up survey. So I think they kind of get to a point where, you know, despite the fact that they communicate that they want more supports, it's difficult for them to sort of see the connection between answering these surveys and accessing those supports or having those supports made available. Sorry, I'll wrap up here. There were just a couple of other things. Is the MDI data shared at the school level? I just wanted to address that question. Yes, it is shared at the school level, so the administration and often the staff are made aware. And is there a role for clubs in safe and caring schools work? Definitely. The C's group is one of the groups that we've worked with. We have tried to sort of get some other student groups on board. And again, just sort of missing each other in terms of alignment, timing, availability, those kinds of things. But we are working on getting as much student voice as we can. I'll wrap up there and let Superintendent David.
Thank you. You know, one of the things that as I listen to what's being said, that comes to mind is that we actually have a lot of really high quality street data available to us already. So this morning I spent a couple of hours walking around the high school. I went there, I got a text saying the band was playing, and I went there to hear the band play, and I walked in the door just as they went bump, and it was over. Well, I was there already, so then I walked around. I missed the concert. All I got was the bump. But I managed to have lots of conversations with teachers. And one of the things that lots of teachers and a couple of students that I talked about was the shift in culture in the school this year, because the principal and her admin team are very active and very visible in the hallway. They're engaged with young people. They are issuing consequences, not in a draconian way, but quickly and in a meaningful way. And they're addressing student conduct formally, and they're being clear with kids about what's expected, and they're supporting teachers in setting expectations in their classroom. I suspect that we will see improvement in that data, in part because there's been a shift in the way relationships with the school as a whole. What we will often do is look for data to make it us absolutely sure that what we know is true is true. What we know is kids, if they are cared for and engaged, their learning meets their needs, it's within their zone of proximal development. They're getting what they need at a level that aligns with their needs. We fit ourselves to them as opposed to trying to force them to fit to us. So if a student has a special learning need, if we address that need, their anxiety goes down. They get less bored because they know where they're supposed to be. They know what's going on around them. They're less likely to get in trouble. We know these things work. We also know, because I receive the same emails from Safer Schools that Melanie receives, and in conversation with staff in schools, and not just the high school, when staff call home to talk about concerns that do not rise to the level of sending to the office, and they have meaningful conversations with families, those behaviors most usually improve. And when the administration has time and knows that those conversations have happened and they're all on the same page, those behaviors again improve because there's a family approach. We actually know what works. But what we have to do is make sure that people feel supported in having hard conversations, always from a position of love, but and dealing with hard things, keeping the behavior here and addressing it, but holding the human sacred. Like my job when this is done is to make sure you emerge from this conversation whole. Doesn't mean that you don't learn. I think we are hearing good news coming not just out of that school but others, in terms of that being courageous. We have a lot of teachers who've become reluctant to call home and to address things that are hard because they feel like they might be attacked. And the problem with that is they're sometimes avoiding having conversations with people who would love to hear from them, particularly if when they hear in the phone call that it's coming from a place of love and concern. And
Superintendent Davidson, we are losing you a bit, unfortunately, to a bit of a Zoom delay. But I think we got that. Thank you so much. That was very encouraging. I think we all needed that. And I appreciate everyone taking the time for that. I know that was much exceeded our allotted time on the agenda, but I think that was an important conversation, and we will come back to it again in the new year. So thank you again, Melanie. We're ready to welcome our delegation, and thank you very much for your patience. So I have Adam and Lindsay Cottrell and Tony Gilligan to talk about the safety of students at 6th Avenue and 2nd Street. And you can just unmute and I'll pass it over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Maya. Adam Cottrell, good to see some of you that we've met before and meet the rest of you. Lindsay and Tony are on screen as well, and they'll be saying a few words, but just wanted to start by thanking all of you for putting this on your agenda on what looks like a very full one for this evening. And also just to acknowledge the three of us are just parents trying to figure out how to navigate trying to affect some change about something that we care about and have heard a lot of other community members care about, but also not sure exactly how to best engage with the school board and the trustees. So certainly taking your guidance and feedback as well on how we can collaborate most effectively. Maybe just a bit of personal context. Lindsay and I Our daughter, Katie, started kindergarten at Herbert Spencer in September. And while we've lived half a block from the intersection for 10 years, having Katie now go to school and cross that intersection has taken what we already knew was a complicated and difficult intersection, just put it in front of us 10 times a week as she goes to school. And there was an experience that Katie and I had about a month and a half ago, pardon me, where Katie and I were coming home from Spencer's Lane after school care around 4 p.m., got home, walked in the front door, took our shoes off and heard a loud crash, walked back outside and saw there had been an accident that resulted in a white SUV ending up on the corner where we'd been standing waiting for the light to change. And it just became much more personal in terms of the proximity of the time and the event, of being like, had we been there 2.5 or 3 minutes earlier, don't know if Katie would be with us, or we certainly would have had a trip to the hospital. And we've seen so many other near misses, and we don't need to get into all the different anecdotes, but we've now had conversations with countless community members who've shared their own stories that are quite similar. In terms of our journey to arrive at this meeting, it was one of the first things that we did as we were talking to community members who were saying, yeah, I mean, this has been ongoing for so long, was to recall a video. I think it was actually Lindsay who recalled seeing a video that Trustee Carlson had been in at the beginning of this calendar year, standing at the intersection with 2 council members and talking about this issue. So we reached out to her and the council members, Daniel Fontaine and Paul Minhas, to say, we're concerned and we don't know what to do. And the 3 of them have been great. And we've now also spoken with countless other members of the community, including having a chance at a recent council meeting to meet with Danielle Connolly, and then also Mark Andreas from the Herbert Spencer rep and being at a PAC meeting, or at the PAC meetings. We've also spoken with principals, vice principals, the mayor, council, etc. And Tony will speak to a bit more of some of what we've been up to and learned. But one of the things we also want to acknowledge is we've learned that there are another 2 or 3 hotspot issues that have been identified within New Westminster in and around schools. So this is the one we can speak to from personal experience, but we certainly aren't trying to take a myopic view that is just focused on this intersection. Certainly we see it as an important one, but not without also now having seen that there's a greater opportunity to look holistically across our city and our community. And at last night's council meeting that I was at, I was very encouraged to hear that the best routes to school review and update will be now on the work plan for city staff as a result of a motion that was approved. So it sounded like there was an intention to work with School District 40 around that. So I'll maybe take the opportunity to hand it over to Tony, who has some other thoughts and information that hopefully will be helpful for you as trustees to have a chance to hear about. And of course, we're happy to answer any other questions at the end. So thank you. Tony, over to you.
Thanks, Adam. Good evening, everyone. I'm a dad. I have a 9-year-old daughter, and I live about a block away from Herbert Spencer Elementary. And I'm very proud to call New West my home. As Adam mentioned, we're very grateful for having the time today, and there's been a lot of interest, and we are talking on behalf of members of Herbert Spencer, Glenbrook District PACs, principals, and members of local residents associations and others. The last time I looked, our petition was over 1,100 signatures, and as well as letters of support. I think it's very obvious and clear that the community has, very clearly made its needs known and is looking to, our elected officials for positive and effective road safety improvements. And as Adam mentioned, we do want to acknowledge that the leadership of City Council for passing a motion on the November 25th to undertake a secondary review of the intersection with the goal of implementing pedestrian safety upgrades. And while this reflects a strong commitment, it is positive to addressing these concerns. The motion does not indicate specific actions or timelines. So the scope remains unclear to us at this time, and we're very eager to understand more, and we'll continue to keep this issue front and center with City Council, but also There's a lot of people that signed the petition and others that are very keen and interested to see what happens and see this reach a successful conclusion. The focus of the delegation or our delegation today is on the 6th Avenue and 2nd intersection, which is as you are all probably aware, it's a critical part of the Safe Walk route that's adjacent to Herbert Spencer Elementary. And it's a unique and complex intersection. And many of the people that signed the petition specifically called out its uniqueness. Some use some flowery language, but it's well known for those that live close to Herbert Spencer, but those that actually transit through. We are urging the city to conduct a comprehensive review of the intersection safety in school zones and prioritizing investments and mitigations based upon qualitative and quantitative data. And we feel that the data today is flawed because it relies heavily on ICBC claims and excludes critical information like unreported incidents, near misses, and pedestrian traffic volume. And the pedestrians of, we're talking about obviously in this area that there's a lot of them every day is children, young parents, but there's also seniors and those with mobility challenges as well. What's also not included is post-crash trajectory analysis. And this is the understanding of the physical and environmental factors involved in a crash. And, why is it important, you might say? Well, Adam talked to it a moment ago in his story of what happened with him and Katie and a very near miss. A lot of the incidents and accidents that we see at that intersection, vehicles end up on the sidewalk or on the crosswalk. And what we're talking about today is reinforced with lots of research papers and statistics. ICBC shows that every year 51 children are injured in crashes in school and playground zones. And unfortunately, 2 children walking or cycling are killed every year. And communities are seeing incidents and risk increasing. And I'll talk a little bit in a moment why potentially that is. But risks are increasing, and it's spurring community marches for greater accountability and comprehensive road safety measures. This weekend, I saw a story on CTV that was focused on a weekend. It was a walk in Quebec that was trying to raise awareness of the death of a 7-year-old girl, Maria Legonkowska, who was killed on her way to school 2 years ago. So, there's a lot of urgency for change. The ongoing construction of the bridge is going to significantly alter traffic dynamics in this area and others around New Westminster. And there's an opportunity that we have to proactively anticipate and implement safety measures now to prevent further tragedies. And when we talk about statistics, children are 3 times more likely to be injured in school zones than in other areas. 40 kilometers an hour, the risk of a fatality for a pedestrian is 25% significantly higher than at 30. When you stand on the corner at different points of the day, vehicles are not going 30 kilometers an hour. They are traveling higher than 30 kilometers an hour. During the pandemic, there was a study, 30 to 40% of vehicles exceeded speed limits by 16 kilometers an hour or more. And this study showed that the risky driving behaviors persisted after the pandemic. And the study talks to, I think, the challenges with policing being stretched, and drivers became maybe a bolder in what they were doing. But I myself, and I'm sure many of us have seen that drivers tend to have less patience these days. There is riskier behavior. We see at that intersection, drivers blowing red lights, and they're going much faster. Near misses are also sudden braking or swerving are also predictors of future crashes, and proactively addressing these can prevent severe accidents. And I mentioned the bridge earlier on. Infrastructure projects, again, more studies like the bridge can increase congestion during construction and after. So there is an urgency to not just waiting until the bridge is built. There are issues today as a result of the impacts on traffic diversion, etc. So our call to action, we're confident that with continued support and awareness, positive changes can be introduced, can be made. And it was recommended that we come tonight with some maybe some specific requests for consideration of what would be helpful. And we would ask the board to consider formally passing a motion in support of the community's efforts to improve safety at 6th Avenue and 2nd Street and other school zone intersections in New West. Sending a letter to City Council reinforcing the urgent need for pedestrian safety upgrades and a comprehensive safety review, including the data, the near misses, unreported incidents, and pedestrian volume. Supporting education initiatives for safe pedestrian and driver behaviors around schools, and maybe make school zone safety a standing agenda item to ensure that there's oversight and visibility to monitor progress and keep this important issue front and center. So in closing, I want to thank you again for your time, your leadership and support on this issue. We feel together that we can make our streets safer and create a model for collaboration between the community, the council, associations, the board. And I think it's clear there's an opportunity for New West to provide some leadership. We strongly believe that this is, unfortunately, it's only a matter of time before a tragedy occurs if action is not taken. We have an opportunity now to ensure that doesn't happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you for that very informative and thoughtful presentation. I don't know if there's a written version that you might be able to send as well, because there was some great factoids in there and citations. I'm guessing people are going to want to track down.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I know that we do have a package of motions on the agenda a little bit later on that Trustees Carlson and Andres have been working on, but we'll just see if there's any quick questions before then. Trustee Connolly.
Yeah, just wondering if you could also forward your action items as well to the board as a whole, so that we can try and incorporate that into a future agenda as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Andres.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for coming in and, speaking for our community and, all the work that it takes to prepare and, put forward all of your outreach that you've done. It's really, I think, a tremendous asset to our community when people like yourselves take these kind of actions, and it's really important. So thanks so much for coming here tonight and for everything that you've done behind the scenes, all three of you, and I know you've working with others as well. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if I heard there was a moment for questions and answers. I just wanted to echo something Tony said, if that's all right. Yes, okay.
We're there right now, actually. Yeah, we're
awesome.
On
Okay, sorry, I thought the agenda was going to come up on the screen, but
no problem. Yeah, it's coming.
Okay, thank you.
And we do have a 3-minute limit.
Awesome.
For comments.
Okay, thank you. So hi, my name is Elise. I just wanted to echo what Adam and Tony had said earlier, and I wanted to offer up my point of view. I'm a New Westminster resident and a mother of 2 young children. I, along with the 1,100 other concerned residents, I have raised issue with the City Council regarding this dangerous school crosswalk at 2nd and 6th, serving Herbert Spencer. So tonight, as a concerned resident, I'm asking for your support as school trustees to advocate for the safety for our children at this crossing. And while, I understand that there are challenges at all other school crossings, but this particular crossing is really unique and has really unique risks. It lacks a controlled 4-way light and suffers from excessive speeding, congestion, poor visibility, which ironically, just a couple hours ago, on a night like this, I almost got T-boned. So I just thought I wanted to point that out. And this unusual layout are just issues confirmed by, the ICBC engineers. And so this factor creates an especially unsafe environment for, my children, my parents, seniors, when they're using this, both by foot and when they drive. And so I heard from many of you in this meeting that our students' psychological safety is a top issue. And so I'm also asking you to help us improve our students' physical safety by writing to the City Council to express your support and any other ways that you can take action on. And I believe all school crossings deserve safer conditions. And by supporting the motions that's already been passed by council, you have the opportunity to be champions for safety and help create a model for future action across New Westminster. Furthermore, Herbert Spencer serves a choice-based program, which means that this crossing is not only used by local families like myself, but is also by students from across the cities. So it's not just a problem for one school, it's a problem for our entire community. So I hope we have your support and commitment to the safety of our children and seniors, and you'll help us make this intersection safer. So thanks. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to me.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to pass it over to Trustee Carlson, and then we don't generally do a back and forth at the Q&A. Go ahead.
Thank you, Elise. I just also wanted to mention, you were correct that this intersection services the students at Herbert Spencer, but it actually also services the students from that area going to Glenbrook Middle School, and also those in that area that go to the high school. So that intersection services students going to 3 different schools. So thanks for bringing this up.
Awesome, thank you. I'm going to move. Thank you again so much to the guests for spending the time with us, and I know, yeah, trustees are looking forward to debating the motions. We have the comment and question period for visitors. We usually start with our district partners. So I'm going to ask if there's a speaker on behalf of DPAC. I think I saw. Maybe I didn't actually. Yes, I did. Go ahead, Laura Kwong.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Laura Kwong, and I'm the chair of the new DPAC. Thank you for the opportunity tonight to share an update from our group. At our November DPAC meeting, we hosted a parent education seminar that was very well received from children of the street on the topic of online and social media safety for kids. And we have another coming up on Tuesday, January 14th at 6:30. This parent education is actually a naloxone training session and is open for all parents, caregivers, and any students that parents feel would benefit from this training. This training is run by the Purpose Society, and we encourage anyone who would like to attend to please RSVP by emailing us at DPAC to make sure that there are enough naloxone kits for each participant. Through a network of other DPACs across the province, we've also engaged in advocacy at the provincial level and have shared our concerns related to school capacity and lack of adequate funding with the new Ministers of Education and Infrastructure. We will continue to advocate for changes to funding portables, changes to the new school approval and funding process to include life cycle analysis, and changes to area standards so that school facility planning and design is proactive and not reactive to student enrollment. We also delegated at the December 2nd City of New West Council meeting on the topic of traffic and transportation safety issues. We were successful in our request for the youth voice to be included in the city's Vision Zero task force. We also requested that a comprehensive review of the safe routes to school be conducted, as they appear to be last updated in 2016 or 2017 and do not consider the city's new active transportation network plan, nor the 6 neighborhood transportation plans that have been developed in recent years. And as mentioned by other speakers this evening, significant driver behavior changes in these post-pandemic years. In conversations with the city, DPAC understands that there is very little budget allocated to address pedestrian safety around schools and along school routes, and transportation upgrades to improve safety made by the city will be done based on recommendations outlined in the Intersection Network Screening Road Safety Review that was completed in 2023, which makes sense as they don't want to throw out work that was already completed and paid for. However, this road safety review was taken using a car-centric lens, as it is based upon ICBC data collected prior to the pandemic. ICBC only collects data when an insurance claim is made, which means that there is a data gap for data that represents incidences or near misses where an insurance claim was not made, as is often the case with a vehicle pedestrian collision or near misses. That said, we are absolutely in support of the 4 motions from trustees Andres and Carlson. Each of these 4 motions represent important actions that can have a significant impact on the travel of students to and from school safely, and we hope that a collaborative relationship with the city and the district can blossom out of these working actions. Regarding the recommendation from Superintendent Davidson, I see my clock is ticking down. We hope that this recommendation for additional FTE for admin time is passed and that any budgetary efficiencies that are required to fund this increased staffing do not come from other staffing roles that support vulnerable learners such as EAs, resource teachers, ELL teachers, or counselors. I trust that we're all on the same page about how important the need is to maintain current staffing levels in these roles, but I just wanted to reiterate that now anyways. And then in response to Trustee Carlson's comments regarding the middle school transition, this is actually something that we have heard as well directly from PACS, and supporting this transition will be very welcome for families. Things as simple as focusing on the basic logistical bits and pieces, like how to use a locker, where the gym change rooms are, how to get from a homeroom to other classes, like a 101 little intro for students and their families, that could be done in the summertime or the week before school starts. And then one last question. I'm wondering if Fraser Health has any capacity to support the gathering of data or insights into the question of why regarding the student learning survey results trend exists. And if there's any work that could be supported by Fraser Health, as it was mentioned that, yeah, it would be untenable to survey 2,400 students meaningfully, but I think Fraser Health might have a bit more resources than we do, or grants available to support that work. And well over time, thank you for the opportunity to provide an update from DPAC.
Thank you so much, Laura. That's great. On the, sorry, I guess just that question around up around MDI, we'll maybe take that on advisement around Fraser Health and funding it. Otherwise, I think we've covered your comments. We'll take them, keep them in mind. Sorry, got a head cold. I'm a little frazzled. QP 409 partners, I do not think I see online, but please unmute and let me know if I'm wrong. Otherwise, we're over to the New Westminster Teachers Union and Christy Oxley.
Great. Good evening. I'm just balancing screens. Hang on a second. All right. Thank you. So I'd just like to start by echoing, with DPAC, that I was interested to see the motion to amend the budget to create additional admin time at schools around the district. NWTU is in support of this. We had actually in the spring budget process indicated that the teachers would like to see an increase in admin time. We view it as one of the critical ways that teachers can be supported, and of course then students as well. Also a little bit curious to know where the money is coming from, but hopefully we'll hear a little bit more about that later on in the agenda. And again, also echo that we hope that funding at current levels is going to continue for our CCYWs and other support staff that are working directly with our students, together with the admin increases. Hopefully that that provides even more support for our students. On a kind of different note, some of the staff at the high school, I think it was last week, engaged in what they called Cookie Palooza. It was a baking session so that they could bake a number of cookies that were then donated to charity. It happened after school. And it did kind of shine a light again on just how hot the foods and textiles rooms get when the ovens are in use, and brought up the question again about the cooling systems. And so, as we know, there's construction going on in the high school right now to install the cooling system and the upgrades to the ventilation system. Wondering if anybody can answer why that project isn't slated to, like the upgrades aren't planned for the first floor. Perhaps not something that can be answered right now, but I just kind of wanted to put that out there as a question. And it's already 8:20, so maybe I will just call it there. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Christy. I think the cooling project was a matter of resources, and and a more manageable budget ask is my understanding. So it keeps it from, yeah, being all 3 floors. But yeah, and I presume if there's sort of health and safety considerations there, you'll raise them within kind of your OSH committee.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wanted to ask a question or make a comment? If so, please just you could turn your camera on and unmute. Otherwise, we are going to press on. Okay, we are on number 6, correspondence. This is where we sometimes correspondence that relates to the topics of the meeting. So we just wanted to include correspondence that we had received around the traffic issue and a sense of the responses that we'd sent. Number 7, board committee reports. Usually there are no reports for this meeting, and the next committees are meeting in January. And we are on number 9B, under new business, improving transportation in school zones and on routes to school. So I'm going to hand it over to Steve Carlson. I want to do a quick introduction. If we'll go through.
Maya, we can't hear you. You're cutting out.
Oh, sorry. That's because I put paper on the laptop. My apologies. I just wanted to introduce trustees Carlson and Andres, invite you to maybe make a short introduction, and then we can go through the motions one at a time. Thanks.
I think trustee Andres is going to do a backgrounder for all motions.
Yep, thank you. Before we read this, I just want to acknowledge the City Council's support for this motion. So the last few City Council meetings have had motions centered on improving safety and school zones, which have been met with support from the whole council. So I just want to express appreciation and optimism for this direction. A strong working relationship leads to good outcomes for our students and families. I also wanted to thank the parents, families, partner groups, and community members who have brought forward their concerns and observations to this board for action. So the motion before us is about improving transportation in school zones and on routes to school. As New Westminster's population grows and road infrastructure projects alter traffic flow, ensuring the safety of students and families in school zones and on routes to school is a critical shared responsibility of the City of New Westminster and School Board. Given that many school sites are situated on or near major traffic corridors, the need for safe pedestrian routes and crossings is urgent. Since traffic flow and road improvements are in most cases the mandate of the city, a collaborative approach will ensure the needs of the school district are met. The City of New Westminster's adoption of a Vision Zero strategy at the December 2nd, 2024 council meeting and the formation of a Vision Zero task force reflects a commitment to eliminate traffic-related fatalities and serious injuries. To be an effective member of this task force, the school board must identify school-related safety needs and take an active role in planning and advocacy processes. The Vision Zero motion also identified youth as a key partner group. The school district should provide mentorship and training to youth delegates to support their advocacy efforts. The impacts of inaction, well, without direct advocacy and input from the school board, school-related safety priorities may be overshadowed by broader citywide goals. The risks of overlooking critical improvements near schools, which could jeopardize the safety of students and families. And finally, safe routes to school. It is vital that school communities are walkable by parents, families, and caregivers. This not only ensures students and families have safe, accessible routes to walk to and from school, but also contributes to New Westminster Schools' commitment to reducing greenhouse emissions and supporting student wellness. And with that backgrounder read, I'd like to pass over to Trustee Carlson to read the motions open for our discussion today.
Thank you, Mark. I'll go right into it because we were at 8:25. Motion 1 for the safe routes to school. Whereas the Safe Walk to School Routes program provides a framework for ensuring safe, accessible routes to school for students and families and encourages active transportation to and from school, be it resolved that the Board of Education, number 40, New Westminster, 1, direct the superintendent to collaborate with city officials and relevant advocacy groups to align efforts to ensure the program meets the needs of all school communities. And 2, to write a letter to the City of New Westminster to advocate for A, an updated review of the Safe Walk to School routes to assess current conditions and identify areas for improvement. And B, the inclusion of the update to Safe Walk to Root School to be included in the 2025 work plan.
Thank you very much, trustees. So that, can I get a
will-
mover and a seconder for that motion?
I will move that.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Moved. Seconded. We have heard the motion and the wording. I'll maybe say at this point, if there's any, are there any speakers against the motion? Otherwise, let's move right to the vote. Trustee Sluice?
We can move to the motion. I'm sorry.
No worries. Okay.
Yeah.
May I just clarify something?
Yep.
At the city council meeting last night, there was a motion, but it was basically they gave notional approval, but we do have to wait. They do have to wait now for staff to bring back a report. So the final approval will come later in 2025. So we're hoping that this motion will help strengthen that request.
Okay, that sounds like a usual city council process. Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of this motion, please
Yes.
raise your hand or-
Yes.
Aye.
And I did figure out so I can see on the screen now, so we're good. Thank you. Any opposed? None. Okay, motion is carried unanimously, and we'll move to the second motion.
And the second motion is regarding city funding for the walking school bus as part of Vision Zero. Whereas the walking school bus is a proven cost-effective strategy that supports the city of New Westminster's Vision Zero goal of eliminating all traffic-related fatalities and serious injuries. And whereas ongoing and sustainable funding is required to expand and maintain the walking school bus program district-wide, be it resolved that the Board of Education, Number 40, New Westminster, write a letter to the city of New Westminster advocating for one, an acknowledgement that the walking school bus program is a key component of Vision Zero initiative, and two, a partnership to ensure continued and ongoing financial and logistical support for the walking school bus program. And I did have an amendment to make. Do we do that?
Okay, we'll get it moved first, please.
Okay,
Get a mover
I'll move that.
and a seconder.
Second.
Seconded.
Andres, thank you. Trustee Sluice, go ahead.
Thank you. I just had a question about point 2, and I would maybe, depending on the answer, a friendly amendment would be in order. It's just write a letter to the city of New Westminster advocating for a partnership, or could it be more clearly stated, write a letter advocating for continued and ongoing financial and logistical support? Like, is it what we're advocating?
We're happy to take out the partnership and yeah, to change the wording there.
Thanks. I just think it makes it slightly more clear. Thanks.
So if folks want to make that, remove the words "a partnership to ensure," maybe we could just get a quick motion to amend. Okay, moved.
Seconded.
Seconded. Any discussion on that amendment? Okay, so we're voting on the amendment, which would make it read advocating for continued and ongoing financial and logistical support. Any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Any opposed? Okay, that amendment is carried. Any more discussion on this motion?
Can I make an amendment now?
Go ahead, yeah.
I'd like to add a number 3, because the city council did vote this down. So that's why I'd like to add number 3, to encourage council to reconsider their position not to fund long-term and stable funding for the walking school bus program.
Let's see if we can get a seconder on that one.
Second.
Okay, and discussion on that. I'm going to say I feel that it's redundant, but I'm not going to rule it out of order. Trustee Andres.
Yeah, I see where Trustee Carlson's coming from, but I do feel like the purpose of our letter is to get them to support this action. So I do feel that as it stands right now, that this motion does include that within its language. But perhaps that is my reading of that.
Thank you. Trust. Oop, hands are gone.
I was going to say the same thing, so.
I guess my concern is they'll look at this and say, we already had that motion, we already discussed it. So if we put number 3 in, it says we're encouraging you to reconsider it.
Yeah, I think, yeah,
That's my reasoning.
I would just say continued and ongoing support is very clear.
Okay.
I am hesitant to do too much finger wagging at other levels of government and how they should do their business. But sorry, I am overstepping in the chair a little bit there. There is an amendment on the floor. Any other discussion on that? Okay, seeing none, maybe we can go to the vote on the amendment. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that is defeated. So we're back then on the main motion as amended with the 2 points. Any further discussion? Okay, I think we might be ready to take this one to a vote and pass it. So all in favor of this recommendation as amended?
Right.
Thank you. Any opposed? Motion is carried. And we're on number 3. Go ahead.
This is the intersection safety and road safety around schools. Whereas the City of New Westminster has passed a motion directing staff to undertake a secondary review of intersection safety at 2nd Street and 6th Avenue, including near-miss analysis with the goal of implementing pedestrian safety upgrade where warranted by, I think this is supposed to say 2025. Is that not right, Trustee Andres?
I believe, yeah, 2025,
That was a misprint. It should read 2025. Be it resolved that the Board of Education number 40 New Westminster write a letter to the City of New Westminster to 1, endorse the city's review of intersection safety at 2nd Street and 6th Avenue and advocate for its inclusion in the 2025 budget. And 2, request the above reviews serve as a starting point for the city to conduct a broad review of all school zone intersections to prioritize identified improvements, including but not limited to crosswalks, intersections that directly impact students and family travel routes, pedestrian controlled lights, visibility enhancements, and pickups and drop-offs in school zones.
Great, thank you. Can I get a mover? Moved, seconded. Okay.
Seconded.
Any discussion on the motion? Trustee Andres.
I just want to say, I think this is a really exciting piece as we continue to deepen our relationship with the city and just getting, school priorities to the top of the list is really vital. And I'm really happy that, we've already seen this acknowledgement at the city level in November. So yeah, feeling really happy with this and hopeful. Thank you.
Trustee Sluice.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you to trustees Carlson and Andres for expanding this to include all school zones. I think that was a really important addition, and I appreciate that.
Okay. Seeing no other speakers, I'm going to move to the vote on this motion as corrected. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Okay, motion is carried unanimously. We're on the final recommendation on the city's Vision Zero. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, for SD40 to join New Westminster City's Vision Zero, whereas the City of New Westminster has adopted a Vision Zero strategy, and student participation and advocacy are essential for ensuring school community needs are represented in this initiative. Be it resolved that the Board of Education number 40 New Westminster write a letter to the City of New Westminster to 1, offer its support for participation in the City of New Westminster's Vision Zero Task Force, who will bring forward strategic priorities, mentorship to students, and identify both pressing and long-term issues. And 2, encourage student representatives, from elementary, middle, and high schools to participate in the Vision Zero Task Force.
Okay, great. We'll get a mover for that motion. Thank you. And a seconder. Any other discussion? Trustee Sluice.
Yeah, sorry. I'm really supportive of all of this work. It's incredible work, and I'm being picky on just a couple of things, but I think the clarity is important. So for this one, I'm unclear whether it's the board or staff or both for part A, and then for part B, it sounds like we're asking the City of New West to encourage student reps. Which is fine, but I go back to Melanie's talk today, her presentation, and I think about the opportunity that comes from participating in leadership opportunities like this, the sense of belonging that comes from it, and clearly in this case, a sense of safety. And so I guess I just wondered who's engaging with the students. Is it the district or is it the city? Because I think there might be a benefit for the district to be kind of owning that. But I would like to hear from the trustees that put this forward.
Question, Trustee Andres.
Yeah, thanks for that, Cheryl. You're completely right. The intention of the motion was to have the school district encourage student representatives and to build that work so that students are supported, you know, and it's something that's ongoing. And so I think if we were suggesting perhaps an amendment here, I think we would just move write a letter to number 1. So include in number 1, write a letter to the City of New Westminster to offer its support. So that just becomes part of the first item. And then I guess number 2 would just be have New Westminster School District encourage student representatives. I think that would improve the clarity.
Those are very tidy amendments.
We did discuss this. Yeah, we did discuss this and felt it was important to get a wide range of student
agreed.
voice. But you're right, that maybe should be from our end. I'm
It
happy
sounds
with
like
that
was your
amendment.
intention, and that would I think those amendments would just make that clear. It looks if we can get a mover for that change. Trustee Connolly, thank you. And another one. Okay, any discussion of those edits? Trustee Connolly.
Just wondering if the intent was, though, for them to invite student representatives. That's what I thought the word encourage was meant to have been invite student.
Well, I think if I may, Chair, I think that it's already within the city's motion that they have, so that they've already received the direction to invite youth, and then the intention of our motion is to help create the mentorship and the opportunities for those youth to be prepared to go and participate at the city's invitation.
Great.
If I could say one more thing, and to ensure that sometimes youth people think of as teens. So the idea was to include all ages.
Okay, great. So on Superintendent Davidson, is it on the amendments? Yes, go ahead.
Just wanted to indicate that the city, when they reach out to us for youth engagement or engagement with our students, they themselves have folks who help facilitate that. And what we would do is help coordinate the connection of students and help them get there and help them to be able to be present and effective participants in that conversation. But the city stands up the supports too for children, so it'd be a matter of coordination.
That's helpful. Thank you. Okay, so on those amendments put forward, can I get all those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you. Those are carried. And then we're back on the main motion as amended. And I'm going to move us on to a vote if that's okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried as amended. Wonderful. Well, that was a great amount of work. I really want to thank Trustees Carlson and Andres for your work, for the community, for bringing this forward, and really looking forward to seeing next steps. Okay, we're going to go back then to reports from senior management and our superintendent update. Superintendent Davidson.
Okay, I'm going to go really quick. I've been to lots of concerts and I'm going to more, and they've been really great. It's been awesome to see them and hear them, and I love that. Of course, been spending a good deal of time this last month supporting IT through our IT disruption and all of the challenges that have come with that. We recently closed our applications for our principal and vice principal pools, and we had more than 30 applicants, and 14 of them are internal applicants, which is a really wonderful change that we're very excited about. A lot of great teachers in our system have put their names forward to take leadership roles, and we're excited about that. Strategic planning process, and Trustee Sluice has been leading that work, is well down the road, and now we're getting to closing planning conversations, and it's a pretty exciting phase of the work. And I'm really excited about what's been done and where it's all headed. It's I don't know if I should be inviting Trustee Sluice to speak to that, but it's been actually really cool, the work that they've done. And then school learning plans, you'll see that we have several of them included there. They are not all there. Our process of going out and meeting with schools was, but I want you to know that we're using in order to have conversations with schools around the learning plans created based on the old strategic plan or the existing strategic plan. What's going to happen here very soon is we're moving the process up so that our learning plan conversations will follow directly on the heels of the strategic plans development in the spring, so that while we're planning for all things from staffing to school priorities in the spring before we go off for summer holiday,
Sorry to interrupt you,
the
Mark.
strategic plan will be directly connected.
Sorry, Mark. Wondering if you want to maybe try turning off your video because it's getting quite garbled. Sorry about
Am I
that.
gone? Oh, okay.
See if that's any better.
I will. Okay. Be easier to watch then anyway. Okay, can you hear me now? Is it any better?
It's better.
I think so,
Please
yeah.
better.
Yes.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so the strategic planning process, we're going to use this format, but it'll be pushed
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Mark. It's not actually. I wonder if you want to try phoning in the audio using your phone,
great.
and we'll just.
It'll be pushed up into the spring. And by moving it up into the spring, we'll have that kind of work. Oh, how do I do that? Call you?
There should be a phone number in the Zoom invitation. And then you can usually use a landline to call in. I'm just looking for it. Sorry, everybody. This was why we didn't hold the board meeting at the board office.
Listening to the rain down out there, I'm not too sad not being at the board office.
Clearly, it was a good idea not to. Oh, I'm just sending him the dial in. sure if that will work, but I think it should.
Hi
Thanks.
there. Can you hear me now?
We sure can. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. So, one thing that I want to say is please don't text me, because when you text me and I'm hotspotting, it keeps bumping me out. So
Got it.
people who sent me 16 texts, and
Yes.
there we
Okay.
go. So here we
We've
go.
got
The strategic plan. What you see there is the format that we'll use for conversations with staff in the spring. We intend to move this process up to happen in the spring, following the strategic plan's completion, so that we'll be sharing this with the board again in late spring as we head into summer. That allows us to be using the strategic plan and the school's learning success plans in their planning conversations with us around all things from staffing to priorities. Something else that you'll see is we're going to be shifting the conversation so that school plans have to include at least one goal that's directly connected to elements of the report on student learning, the FESL report, that allows us to use quantitative data to set goals and to engage in the examination of our success against benchmarks. So while we really appreciate the nature of the goals that are provided in this in these learning success plans, one of the things that we know we need to address are data sets relative to student achievement and graduation and all of those kinds of things. And so at least one of the goals that you'll see in these learning plans that'll be produced in the spring will be connected to goals that allow us to use data that's provided us by the provincial government through the assessments we complete in graduation and so on, in order to see whether or not the goals we set and the strategies we choose to engage are actually having an impact on the data that we select.
Okay, great. Have we covered your report on school learning plans?
You bet.
Okay, thank you so much. Then we can go to amended budget. Mark, are you good to go?
Okay, yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, good. I really started the process of transition in May. I came out and met with the administrators and with staff here in central office, with trustees, and asked a lot of questions about our system. And one of the things that I noticed then, and I see today, is that there are so many amazing things that principals and vice principals want to do, elements of instructional leadership in which they wish to engage, that they struggle to find time or make time to do. So many of them report great passion for their work, a love for their students and for the staff that they work with, and real frustration that they can never find the time to get to all of the work, and they have to leave so much behind when they go home. I'll be frank, some really great people are struggling because the workload and their own expectations of themselves, there isn't time for them to meet those goals. So I know that in speaking to families and as well to teachers, that there's a real desire for administrators to have time to be present, to support students, to support teachers in their work, and to be able to engage in real relationship development with families in the support of students. And so we believe that this increase in administration time, while it doesn't bring us up above the norm for our region, it brings us very close to that norm and will allow for greater levels of instructional leadership, allow them to engage with children in order to address some of the data sets we talked about earlier in the learning story. And frankly, will help us create a culture where people see themselves wanting to move into that kind of leadership role because they see it as a job that not only can they survive it, but that they can be in it and have a positive impact on the lives of the staff with whom they work and the children they serve. So that's the reason for bringing forward the hope for increased administration time across the system. Sort of a similar set of concerns for or around human resource staffing, in that we have the same level of staffing today as we did 11 years ago when Robert Weston joined us. Now we've grown by a dramatic degree in terms of student population and the number of staff. And some of the challenges that we face is that it's taking a long time for the HR staff to be able to engage with staff to support them, to engage in staffing processes. We have members of Robert's team who are here late into the evening and here on weekends. And as you know, the staffing process doesn't happen in a cycle anymore. It is constant. We are constantly hiring. And I'm deeply concerned for the wellness of the staff who currently work within human resources. I'll share as well that my conversation with partners, they too understand that there are services and supports that we want to provide to our employees, to their members, that are taking longer than we would hope because we don't have sufficient staff to get to them. And so this request is really to bring our service level for our employees up to what it had once had been. I'll also say that it's not present here, but having worked in a number of school jurisdictions in central office and in schools, if you have staffing at a level where when people reach out, they get a response in a fairly timely manner, and that person can take the time to know you and hear you, it helps build a culture where people feel not simply as though they're employees or a number, but that they're part of a learning community. And those are goals that are certainly present in just about everything that Robert says and the way he does his work and his team, and providing them support for that work will, I know, have great benefits for our system. I don't know if Bettina wants to step in and speak a little bit to the financial impact. I'm happy to carry on, but.
Sure, I'm happy to. I think the details are outlined in here. I share Mark's concerns that he's brought forward, the strategies he's advising the board on. We've had significant conversation about our ability to manage the financial costs of these investments. Certainly you can reflect on them in here within the backgrounder. They are significant in nature, and we've provided the annualized cost for your information as we consider future related budgets. So what I can share with you based on some work that the finance team has prepared is that we had initially passed a $558,000 deficit budget. That operating deficit will grow this year. The costs that we're proposing have been offset by some financial gains as it might relate to operating grants due to higher than expected levels of enrollment. And so as part of the 25-26 school year budget creation, which will take place in the spring, there will certainly need to be conversations on how we manage the taking on of these priorities and operationalizing these costs within this budget and into future years. And as I mentioned, for this current year, there's a great deal of confidence that we can absorb these costs. They would come from our accumulated surplus reserves And there will be commitment by staff to bring forward a plan for the board's consideration on how we manage these structural deficits that are currently presented in the budget.
Great. Thank you to both of you. Really appreciate you bringing it forward. I will just say that from when Trustee Davidson first came to the district, the theme of an overstretched system is definitely one that he's been raising, I think, from day one. So appreciate the opportunity to take a look at this. It is unusual. It's outside of our usual budget cycle, but we have, I think, an exceptional educational leadership team here who are looking to make some changes so that we can get ourselves heading in the right direction. Any questions from trustees about the finances of that or the implementation? Trustee Andres, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say my support for, increasing our 5.1 FTE for administration, as well as support for human resources staffing. I think it's really clear from all the conversations that we've had and from our conversations at the school levels that we trustees engage in with our the schools that we represent. People are working incredibly hard and from an incredible position of care, but they are just being asked to do too much. So I really support this. My point of caution is, of course, every year we talk about this critical tipping point, $2 million in our contingency reserve fund, and so I think we will need to be having challenging conversations as we move forward, and I think that the board needs to be prepared for those conversations as we approve, if we choose to approve this recommendation. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Trustee Sluice.
Yeah, I actually don't have any more to add to that, Mark. Thank you.
Other comments? Or are we ready to move to the recommendation then? So the motion is that, oh, sorry, Trustee Connolly.
No, just a bit of an afterthought there. Just for clarity, we will be getting, like you said, in the budget cycle, how we're going to operationalize these and the impact we'll have going forward. So that will be in the spring, correct?
Correct. So the news for the 24-25 budget, which is the cycle we're currently in, this would be funded out of the accumulated surplus reserve. For future years, which encompass 25-26 budget season, which will kick off shortly here, starting early 2025, that is when we will have to take a closer look at budget and propose to you ways that we balance ourselves.
Great, thank you. Okay, so the recommendation is that the Board of Education of School District Number 40, New Westminster, approve the additional staffing resource request to increase administration by 5.1 FTE and an increase in HR department personnel by 2.0 FTE effective January 1st, 2025.
Moved.
Thank you.
Seconded.
It's been seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We are then on to, I think it's 9A new business and trustee assignments, which I apologize, were not in the package. They're on email to trustees and they're here on the screen. So I'll just explain this process a little bit. So we try to shuffle up our trustee school liaison assignments on an annual basis. Some of the considerations that I looked at are when the meeting dates fall and people's work availability. And this year we were able to sort out all of the dates so that we are not, in fact, assigning trustees to meetings that are on the same time at the same day and the same time in different parts of the city, whether they're online or in person. where trustees do not have a child in the school themselves, because that's very awkward for administrators and the school community. And then just making sure that trustees have a chance to learn about a variety of schools. So this year we've done quite a shuffle with almost all of them shuffling, and they are there. So I hope I've taken your requests and considerations into account, and look forward to sending that out. So I believe the superintendent will get that out to school admin, and we'll make sure it gets out to DPAC as well. And we'll make that effective. Well, I guess if there's any more December meetings, I don't think there are, so I think that would be effective in January. And I will say that includes some schools invite their liaison trustee to daytime school events, and then we consider ourselves included in the PAC meetings that are listed there as well. Okay. We are then at number 10, old business, trustee reports. I did want to ask trustee Sluice to report if she wanted to report on the strategic planning process here, and then happy for all trustees to do a brief report if you would like.
Thanks, Chair Russell. Yes, we have had a few meetings with Roots and Rivers, our consultants, since our last board meeting to move the strategic planning process forward. So I just wanted to provide some additional updates since the last emailed update. In terms of engagement, in information gathering, we received a total of 300 surveys in our engagement, 11 one-on-one interviews with 2, I think, remaining. There might only be 1 now. Focus groups have been completed. We had around 30 participants in those. We had a town hall that offered an opportunity for validating some of the themes that came out of the engagement. We heard that people really appreciated the meaningful opportunities to provide feedback. A little bit disappointing that we had, I think, less than 10 people show up when we had almost 50 people registered. But again, because the engagement was solid, and this was validation, the consultants are not concerned about moving forward. Doing some work on the actual planning sessions that our board and senior management will be involved with on January 7th and February 4th. The team is prepping an engagement summary memo, list of emerging priorities, and a synthesis of our past strategic plan, our accomplishments, any gaps, and that sort of thing. And I think that will be shared with you before the break, so that if you need some light reading over the holidays, you will have something ready to go. We've reviewed the session plans and the logistics around those days. In terms of format of the strategic plan, I think I sent an email asking for feedback. Didn't hear any, but I'm just going to assume that the proposed outline is good to go. And also just wanted to share that we'll be retaining a graphic designer that's been recommended by the consultant, just to pull together the package. Should I continue with the rest of my report, Maya?
Yeah, might as well. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. That wraps it for the strategic planning update. Happy to take any questions if you have them, but I'll just finish my report. I did have the opportunity to meet with DPAC Chair Laura Kwong along with Chair Russell. Majority of focus of discussion was on advocacy. It was a good meeting. We determined that there really is a will from both to work on some joint priorities, including capacity related challenges for student funding, and obviously safety getting to and from schools. We'll be working on some key messages that both groups can work from, and we will look at sharing some of this information at Discover New West Schools event on January 9th, and we talked about hosting a joint advocacy info session in the near future. I also had the opportunity to meet with Tweeds PAC this month and attend the Queensborough Middle School production of Madagascar. Once again, I was absolutely floored by the energy and passion brought to the stage by all the performers, but also the staff that were supporting the show. It truly was a community effort. It really demonstrated district values of collaboration, engagement, equity, and inclusion. And I don't know who's assigned to Queensborough Middle, but I know that you will really enjoy the musical productions that happen in December every year. Finally, I just wanted to recognize that December 6th was the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women. This day serves as a reminder of the lives lost to gender-based violence, and I just want to thank all of the staff and students who are fostering a culture of respect, safety, and equality in our school community. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Sluice. Any other trustees who wanted to provide a report tonight? Trustee Connolly?
Sure, I'll just do a quick one. I just wanted to say that I did go to the city council meeting the other week when Adam and Lindsay were there presenting, and I just wanted to thank those parents. It takes a lot to go and speak in front of City Hall and engage like that. So I just, it's important, and but it does take a lot. And so thank you for taking that on and advocating for safety in our community and around our schools. Attended a number of PAC meetings this month, which are all a little sad in December when we're getting close to the reassignment. So some farewells but it's nice to have those connections with the schools, and I look forward to the new assignments coming up. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Carlson?
Sorry, I see that there's a hand up.
Yeah, that would be under the next agenda item is a question period.
Okay, sorry. So mine will be very short. As I'm not able to attend large indoor events yet, I continue to work quietly behind the scenes. And I just wanted to thank Trustee Andres. It was great working with you on the motions regarding safety. And I will echo Danielle or Trustee Connolly's thank you to the parents who came out tonight and for all your advocacy. Safety is always number one in my book. And to thank you, Maya, for chairing and doing your best at getting everybody schools and dates that they can attend. And I look forward to seeing you all in the new year. So thank you all for all the hard work you've done. That includes all the staff.
Thank you. Any other trustees? I will report very briefly that I have been focused on implementing our advocacy plan. So we had that first meeting with the DPAC chair, and then I'm convening our district partners, so the QP Teachers Union and DPAC in middle of January. So I'm really looking forward to that. And that's an opportunity to just discuss our advocacy priorities and understand what priorities are there for our partners, which I know are very aligned, but just to understand how those line up and then talk about how we can support each other in that work. Trustee Andres.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for all the work that you've done. Just also, as this is our last meeting of the year, for this long year, just really great community coming together. I think the board coming together around our new superintendent and team, and it's just been, I think, a really good experience. So I just want to end by saying happy holidays, everyone. And I can see Adam there with a child. Enjoy your holidays that are upcoming. And with that, I'll cede the rest of my time.
Thank you. Okay, I think that takes us then to question period. So this is an opportunity for questions to the chair on the matters that arose on the meetings. Go ahead, Adam.
Thank you, Trustee Russell. Actually, it's more a matter of feedback for Trustee Sluice. Happy to provide this offline, but regarding the focus groups for the strategic planning input, I think there were some logistical challenges with the attendance related to the one that I was at. And happy to share that offline, but it might be helpful for future sessions because the low attendance at ours, I think, was due to some communication issues with the consultants and their attendance lists and so on, as opposed to a lack of engagement for that in-person session.
Yeah, Adam, thanks for sharing that. If you don't mind sending me some of those details, I would appreciate that. We can have a discussion about that. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, more than happy to do that.
Okay.
But Christy, go ahead.
Just wondering, now that the motion to amend the budget has passed and the 5.1 FTE of additional admin time has been approved, do we have a plan for where that FTE is going to be placed, or at least a timeline to announce it?
Superintendent Davidson, can I hand that to you?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, we have a plan that would have us distribute that time to all but a couple of schools. Then we have a further plan to increase admin time in a couple for next year without additional cost. The initial conversations about the potential have already started to happen with administrators, and Robert is at work already trying to figure out, well, he probably has figured out, but he's already been at work figuring out how to create that time. It's different in each school. In some cases, it requires a different kind of role to be brought in, and others it's offering increased FTE to part-time teachers and so on. But now they're well on the go. Our hope is to have it up and running in all of our schools within the first couple of weeks back in January.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions or comments. That takes us then to the notice of meetings. So our next open board meeting will be on January 28th. We actually also have committee meetings on January 14th. The National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women has been recognized, which was on December 6th. Thank you. And then there are reports from 3 in-camera meetings attached, November 26th, December 4th, and December 10th. And just want to echo the thanks from trustees to our incredible leadership team and all of our staff for a very, very busy year, another tough year, but one that we're feeling, I think, very, very optimistic about the path forward. And thank you to all of you trustees for being so delightful to work with. And I hope everybody gets a really nice break and relaxing time over the holidays. Do we have a motion to adjourn? It's been moved. It's been seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
And carried. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Good night.